Yes, this is Bill Jones with Recapture Federalism, and we're coming to you from Bill Jones at Freedom's Nest. Yes, another day at Freedom's Nest. Uh, another episode, another presentation. And before I go any further, I do what I always do to start out my presentations. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God. I took that oath first in 1965 when I joined the Navy. I say this over and over. The enemy then was communism, just as it is now. And I'm talking about domestic communism. Subject today and the title is Class Warfare, Communist Profiteering, and Racketeering. As I always say, controversial titles and subjects. It usually is. I'm usually talking about treason and communism. It's related to that. And today it's about profiteering and racketeering. That's right. We'll be laying into that, and we'll be talking about that. I have mentioned in the past other presentations that I'm from Illinois. More specifically, I was born in Chicago in 1945, a long time ago. I'm an old man. Back in those days, when I was first born, I was just a dumbass street kid from the south side of Chicago. Wonderful education you get. You know, about the time you're 5 years old, there you start figuring things out. You see things. Some things adults probably shouldn't see, but anyway, you start learning. You start learning the alphabet, and A, B. You get to C, and the first thing you learn is that C stands for corruption, because it's all over the place in Chicago, politics. And you continue on, and you get to F, and F, of course, is for fixes in. Like I got a ticket, so my alderman's going to fix the ticket. The fix is in. And you go a little bit farther, and G is for get along, go along to get along. And you continue on, and you get to J. And J is for judges. And of course, you refer that back to C, corruption. And you continue on, and you learn to get all the way to P for politician. And of course, that's referring back to C also. Yeah, that's right. Well, what amazes me, people around the United States, and I suppose the world too, they all say, well, that's corruption in politics and the judiciary and the law industry. That's just the Chicago way. And for years and years and years, I was brainwashed to believe that too. But you know what? It is the Chicago way, but it's the communist way. It's the communist way. Corruption. They follow all the tactics of the Communist Party. The Communist Party is about supremacy, religious and political, and party supremacy. And that's what they learn in Chicago, because they got political party supremacy here in Illinois and in Chicago. I mentioned this once before in the presentation. Even this last election, the Democrats, for instance, Dick Durbin, for instance, the way they've got the districts set up, they load up the system out of the urban area, and it's all in the communist guidelines of the Communist Party, 1921, about this too, about you build a base in the urban areas. And that's what they did for voting and districting, and they've got illegal districts here. took it to court. The Republican Party took it to court a couple of decades ago and said, this isn't right. And of course, the corrupt Supreme Court, state of Illinois, decided, well, no, everything's just fine. And it was a case involving Luis Gutierrez, who you see all the time. And the decision was written by a judge by the name of Michael Balanik. And probably around the country you have no idea. That name probably doesn't mean anything. Well, in the Chicago area, in Cook County it does. He was mayor of Chicago, a Democrat. When old man Daley, the old mayor, died, the deputy mayor took over. And the deputy mayor from the same ward, same neighborhood, Bridgeport, as the Daleys, took over. And when he was a lawyer, and when opening came up for the Illinois State Supreme Court, he got there. And of course now he's a Democrat. And a Democrat is going to, he's not going to turn on his party supremacy. And they came up with all sorts of baloney about it. But if you ever seen the maps of these districts, it's humorous. Tragic, but humorous. So we have the Chicago way, which is really the communist way. Section 8 of the Communist Party's guidelines. If I can find it here, I want to get the exact quote of the section. Section 8. They have it on the combination of legal and illegal work. And they talk about this criminal activity. That's what communism is all about, is the criminal activities. There's no morality or anything, and crime is the way you do things. And when they say combination of legal and illegal work, they're talking, when this party now is all about the Communist Party. It's about legal parties and illegal parties. Wow. So as a dumbass street kid from Chicago, I learned all about that growing up. Now, I have mentioned in the past, in 1960, I was 15 years old. That's when I became an anti-communist. And I've learned a lot about communism and about the Constitution and the federal system of America and the relationship there. And it even brought me into the Holy Bible. They're all related, by the way. The morality, or the moral code, comes from the Holy Bible. In communists, I've mentioned this before, the quote, communists abolish all eternal truths, abolish all religions, and all morality. So you obviously have crime. They're out to destroy the legal system. So consequently, if you're adhering, you have the party adhering to the Communist Manifesto and the guidelines of the Communist Party, it's also criminal also. Well, when you deal in criminality, words like profiteering and racketeering become second nature. Around the country, you probably heard, that we had the last governor, Blagojevich, Chicago Powell. Yeah, Chicago Powell. Crooked. And he was charged federal crimes, and one of the crimes was racketeering, because that's how they operate. Now, and of course, there was federal charges. To tell, we don't want to be sending them to any local jails here, prisons in Illinois. They're not the nicest place in the world. But you go to a country club, with the federal charges. There is charges here in Illinois There's an Illinois RICO law. Of course, there's the federal RICO law. Illinois also has a law that was passed in 1960, official misconduct. The criminal code in Illinois, 720. I have yet to see an Illinois politician charged with official misconduct. And I could tell you, official misconduct. If you ever read the law, I'll read it someday in the presentation. If you're not supporting the Constitution, it's official misconduct. So you can just imagine there isn't a politician in the state of Illinois who isn't involved in official misconduct. It's a felony. Up to 7 years in jail. And of course, you get thrown out of office, too. That's the important thing. I don't know why people aren't charged with that, other than the fact that the whole system's corrupt and you're not going to have people buck the system. They're going to go along to get along. The fix is in. The fix is in. I know just the other night, Friday night, which was would be the 5th of December, in reference, I happened to be on listening to Fox, which it's getting to be a tedious process to listen to Fox. They're starting to really aggravate me. They're as phony as the rest of them. And O'Reilly's show, and I don't know what's with him here in the last couple of years. I don't know whether they've gotten intimidated by the Justice Department ever since the James Rosen incident, whether they've been intimidated by them or not. But Bill O'Reilly was on there, and he had his cohort, Mr. Gerald Rivera. Bill, did you say Gerald? Yeah, I said Gerald because that's his real name, and he switched over when he was really liberal and young and a lawyer. And before that, he changed his name to Geraldo. So you see, he's as phony as his name. But they were talking about Chicago. And I said, man, they were talking about Chicago and about crime, about kids getting killed over there and drugs and stuff like that and with the gangs. Now, that's about all they said. Well, I got news for you. That's nothing. That's nothing. They should have talked about something else. They're just wasting airtime for what they said. If you really want to get into something interesting, you would think, because Bill O'Reilly said to Gerald, he said, hey, Geraldo, you know about Chicago, what happens out there. I think he's meaning more than the Al Capone safe, but which was phony too, wasn't it? Anyway, get on target here, Bill. Mr. Rivera, in his young days as an attorney, was out here in Chicago, in Illinois, and he was involved with some organizations out here. One of them was a gang called the Young Lords. Now, the other night when he was talking about gangs, he didn't mention anything about his experiences out there. I'd love to hear him get deeply involved in that. I know in the past he has just passionately mentioned that he was anti-war and he was part of anti-war demonstrations. Well, I wonder if he was involved with Bill Ayers. I wonder if he was involved and had knowledge and worked with the Black Panthers. I wonder if he was involved in what the association, I believe he was, but what the association was with the FALN terrorist, the Puerto Rican terrorist. But no, they don't talk about that. That'd be an interesting subject now, wouldn't it? Personal experiences. I wonder if he was involved or knew or talked with, in the 60s, my congressman, Bobby Rush. Now, Mr. Russian, because I always talk, if you're looking at the screen and you see my observational chart of the silent, secret American insurrection and revolutionary movement, which is going on, has been going on since the 60s. My congressman, Bobby Rush, you see, is a founder of the Black Panther Party of Illinois way back when. He was, and I believe still is, a part of the revolutionary movement, okay, which is communist, the black nationalist. He was on the floor of the Congress the other day talking about his old dead friend, Fred Hampton, got killed in a raid, a weapons raid. You see, they were a violent organization, the Black Panthers. In fact, Bobby Rush back in the 60s was a deputy defense minister for the Midwest region, primarily Illinois, for the Black Panthers, a black nationalist communist organization. So we still have them going around it. We had it then and we have it now. And they're involved in Ferguson and New York and are in demonstrations around the country. Now, how does that have to do with profiteering and racketeering? Well, that's the business end. And it's the business end of a lot of these gangs. The street gangs, by the way, in Illinois in 2012, were declared by legislative findings to be terrorism. Oh, that's right. Bill O'Reilly and Geraldo, supposedly experts on what's happening in Chicago, failed to mention that. They didn't mention any of this stuff. The ratio of street gang members in Chicago to the police is approximately 10 to 1. Chicago is a sanctuary city. MS-13 is in Chicago fairly strong because of immigration violations and criminality, illegal aliens, criminals coming into this country on an open border. Yeah, but we didn't hear that in that conversation. They just were wasting airtime with trivial matters because that's all they're involved with. They don't want to go. The days of hard investigative reporting concerning communism and black nationalism and all this other stuff is long gone. Nobody talks about it. You can't even get a constitutional scholar to talk about Article 3, Section 3, treason. Did anybody ever mention it? No, it's in the Constitution. Nobody mentions it. Are you kidding me? You wouldn't get Bill O'Reilly and Geraldo to mention it. But communists, that's their goal, is the overthrow of governments. That's how they operate. That's their intention. And last presentation I had talked about it. Make people tremble, the ruling class. By the way, they consider the ruling class the middle class, which right off the bat, they're wrong. The ruling class is the economic elite who are cohorts and collaborators with the Communist Party and the Communist and the political party supremacy. All of that. And they work together. So, the profiteering and the racketeering of all this criminal activity, it's all criminal. If you're dealing with political party supremacy, it's political corruption, judicial corruption. The two political parties match up to the definition, the RICO definitions of a criminal enterprise. Of course, they probably somewhere along the line in there, they've made themselves exempt. The trouble with that, making yourself exempt from the law, that violates and puts you in non-compliance with Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States. You can't do that. That's corruption. That's a violation of public trust. Yeah, that's a C in the alphabet there, corruption. So, is profiteering, is there money in it? Oh man, it's big time money. Let's see. Debits, debts, and credit is one of the primary angles that they use. So that's 17 trillion to 20 trillion dollar debt, and some people know it's more than that, with all the churning and market manipulation. But that alone, there's your profiteering. Who do you think's making money off all that debt? The national banks. National banks and the bankers are controlled by people who adhere to the Communist Party and the Communist Manifesto and the guidelines of those things. There's money to be made. Big time money. Lawyers making money, judges making money, bankers making money. There's no small businesses anymore. It's all big businesses. You think maybe they're making money? I'm going to tell you where I got this idea about class warfare from. In the next presentation, I'll be talking about a gentleman who wrote a book in 1931, which title was War is a Racket. I believe that's the proper title. Let me double check right here. War is a Racket. It's also the title of the first chapter of the book. I'm going to go over that in another presentation. Very interesting. And it feeds off that. It's the same thing for war as in class war, because that's war also. But it's more specialized in particular. It's like ops and lawfare. That's right. New word, lawfare. Profiteering, racketeering, the legal industry, if you will. Until the next time, good day. Also, we'll do a little ad on the tail end of this for my website, recapturefederalism.com. Come on over, subscribe, let you know when I'm doing things. You come over there. Got archived all my other stuff I've done for the last few years. Picking up pace on what I'm doing from what I used to do. And I'm going to continue it more. I'm going to be starting a daily radio station broadcast type thing, 20 minutes or so. We'll be doing that along with some of these videos and things that we do. And I'll be doing it so that we can get these things on iTunes and some of those other programs with audio. And we'll be converting some of my old stuff over to audio and rebroadcasting. So if you would join me there, that way you can get information about Bill Jones at Freedom's Nest and subscribe. Till next time.